StravaCraft coffee is the rich CBD-infused coffee that you can now purchase in K-Cups for your Keurig, if that's your thing. Of course, they also have whole bean or ground options, too. And you can get 20% off when you use code DNVR20 at checkout. You can order online and get it shipped straight to your door fast and easy. And the CBD is non-psychoactive and has been known to help both aches and pains, injuries, and the like, as well as things like migraines or anxiety. So give it a try today with that DNVR20 code. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits. With locations in Centennial and Highlands Ranch, they are the go-to place to pick up whichever beer, wine, or alcohol you might need. I'm Nathan Rudolph. He's AJ Hafley. We are here, finally, with some news coming out of the NHL and the NHLPA today, as they have officially voted yes and agreed to a return-to-play format of a 24-team playoff. I don't want to call it bracket necessarily, but it's essentially a bracket, where there will be play-in games down to the round of 16, and then from there it sounds like that will be the playoffs as normal. So, exciting that something has finally been set in motion for the NHL as far as that. The time frame still not completely confirmed. It sounded like early July is when they would get back on the ice as far as training camps begin, but we're here. The news of something actually official instead of just rumors on getting this thing going. It's exciting for me. AJ, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to look at like you said, a bracket. It's cool to look at it and start to actually have something to talk about in terms of matchups and what teams are going to be going against each other and how they handle the seeding of the top four seeds. We're not sure, but it looks like the matchups for the play-in round are probably set, and I think that's exciting. I'm looking forward to it, and it's interesting to see the teams that cost themselves and didn't cost themselves with what happened down the stretch at the very end of the year.
Yep, and just to kind of dive into that, I suppose in each conference, the top four teams have been seeded and will not have to do the play-in rounds. Excuse me, for the West, that is St. Louis, Colorado, Vegas, and Dallas, leaving Edmonton, Chicago, Nashville, Arizona, Vancouver, Minnesota, Calgary, and Winnipeg on the outside, looking in, having to go through those playoff rounds. A bit of an interesting spot to see, particularly with a team like Edmonton, who had more points, but because of the points percentage and the way that things worked out, they were actually in fifth.
Yeah, well, I mean, they had 71 games played, 83 points. Dallas had 69 games played and 82 points. So, you know, yeah, it's just, and Edmonton lost their last game, so should have tried winning it, fellas.
There you go. Win and you're in.
Yeah, boy, would that be something if Edmonton that loss, whoever they played, whatever it was, and they go in and they lose to Chicago.
Brutal. And that's the 5-12 matchup, by the way. Chicago was the last team in the West, so
yeah,
it would certainly be rough for Edmonton if that's the way things went down. On the other side of this coin, and this is an issue I brought up before it was even official, depending on how the length of these series is, that's not confirmed yet.
Yeah.
If a team like Edmonton gets rolling through these play-in games, are they going to be more comfortable on the ice than some of these top-seeded teams? Now, they have said the expectation there is the top-seeded teams will play some form of round-robin that could potentially have impact as far as the teams reseeding once they actually get to the round of 16.
Yeah.
Meaning the Avs could take the number one seed, as could any of the other three teams there over St. Louis based on that play. So they should get games on the ice as well as far as the top teams are concerned. But nonetheless, if Edmonton plays two best-of-3 series that go 3 games and they have 6 games under their belt compared to the 2 or 3 that the Avs might get, I do wonder if that could be a bit of an issue.
I don't know why they would get 2 series.
Edmonton?
Yeah.
It, I
Because if they beat Chicago, then they would play, at least right now, they would be matched up against Dallas.
suppose so. Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry, I was thinking of an old format where they would have 20 to 24 play down. Anyway,
Oh, right.
yeah, it's
And
just
have two
right.
play-in rounds.
It's one playoff round, play-in round rather, I should say. So they can jump right into the round of 16. But I suppose then, if the play-in series becomes a best of 5 or a best of 7 or something like that,
depending on the length of it, but given that they want the top seeds to play each other, I think a best of 5 makes sense because that means everybody is guaranteed at least 3 games.
Right. So,
and I think that's the fairest way to approach this.
It's as close as you can get, yeah.
Yeah, and it makes the most sense. If Chicago and Edmonton go 5 games, then again, try not losing one of them.
Fair enough.
Win a game. It's not necessarily a good thing for them if it does go 5 games.
Yeah, definitely.
Those extra games may not necessarily be a good thing. The extra game or 2
certainly could wear them down just as much as warm them up.
My real concern about the top seeds playing each other is that if they don't make it for seeding purposes,
they're going to have a bunch of teams not trying.
Exactly. Yeah. They will know, hey, we need to take this more seriously than a preseason game, but it'll be like preseason 1.5.
Right. There's still going to be a bunch of dudes saying, I'm not getting hurt for this out there.
Right. That's really where it is that it's going to be a bunch of dudes who are like, I'm not risking injury for any of this, it's just not worth.
Yep. Exactly. If there has to be something to play for, otherwise, it's just not the same atmosphere. I mean, let alone regular season to playoff differential. Games just need to matter to get a realistic, up to speed look from an NHL team.
Yeah, and playing for seeding, I would have no issues with.
Same.
The Avs could move up 1 spot, they could drop 2 spots, whatever. You get you get the result that you deserve in that case. Well, you play the round robin against the top teams in the West. For one, it gives you an opportunity to see that team before a potential matchup and later on, whatever. And then, which I think is more important against a team like Vegas because the Avs only played them twice.
Sure, unlike St. Louis, yeah.
Neither game was close. The Avs blew them out both times, and so it was
what does this team really look like in a close game? Yeah.
You really don't have a feel for that opponent at all. Whereas St. Louis and Dallas, they should be plenty comfortable with. Although, Dallas is one of the only teams that the Avs didn't beat this year in the entire league. So, them getting an early look there, they go in and they get to play them. They pick up a win, and maybe it could be something we stop talking about.
I see where you're coming from now. But I mean, yeah, I would agree. The more film, the better, right?
Yeah, well, and just it's almost an advantage now that I'm thinking about this that they get to play those teams because they're going to be playing. The stakes may not be higher, but they're going to be playing the higher quality games.
Right.
If they play for seeding and they take this seriously, then Colorado, St. Louis, while Vancouver and Minnesota are featherweight punching each
playing
other.
Some junk hockey out there.
Yeah, Colorado and St. Louis are going to be going at it because they're we want very much to avoid Edmonton and Nashville or Arizona. That's for me. That's why you care. You don't want to be on that bottom half of that bracket with Nashville or Edmonton, or even Arizona, because their goalies will finally be healthy.
That. Whoever falls to the 4 seed is going to have a bad time for sure.
I don't want any and if Chicago upsets Edmonton, we know what Chicago capable of when they get a little bit hot.
Yep.
So as bad as that defense is, and as much as I think Colorado would smoke them,
Corey Crawford in the playoffs too, man.
A dude gets rolling, you just never know, especially with short formats like this.
Yep.
So that's why I'm playing for seeding would absolutely matter. Colorado gets the 1 seed, they get a shot at either Calgary or Winnipeg. Got to feel pretty good about those matchups. Vancouver and Minnesota, I think Colorado would be easy favorites in all 4 of those series.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think they would be favorites against against Chicago and Arizona, like probably pretty solid favorites. But Edmonton and Nashville are the 2 teams that really stick out as ones where I'm like, ugh.
I think it'd probably be a pick'em between Colorado and Nashville in the playoffs, to be honest with you. Against Edmonton with a healthy McDavid and Draisaitl, I mean, that's just scary.
Yeah, and like Colorado's deeper, their defense is better. I like Colorado's goaltending a little bit more, but
especially as Avs fans know well, McDavid just shreds that team apart. So
right, and that's the thing, is that Colorado has the advantage in every other series out west. They would have the advantage of having the best player in the series.
Right.
And in Edmonton, they wouldn't have that. That's the one thing that has always scared me about playing against the Oilers, is that they have the best player. And when you have the best player, you have the biggest ace up your sleeve that you could possibly have.
Yep. That dude can just win you a game single-handedly.
Yeah, and it's the same thing looking out east. Do you think anybody wants the 4 seed where they're probably going to have to play the Penguins?
Pittsburgh? Nope.
You think anybody wants it? Like, no, none of those teams want that smoke.
Yep.
None of them. They are all looking at it like, we will finish in any other seeding. We'll take any other matchup.
Either New York team, fine. Hurricanes, fine.
Right.
Canadians,
like
fine.
They're like, whatever. Like, you want us to play the Maple Leafs? Yeah, they're good. We don't want anything to do with the Pens. You don't want anything to do with postseason Pens.
Yep. Yeah.
Although it would be hilarious if Toronto beats Columbus and they have to
just to play Boston again.
It would be kind of funny.
It's fate at this point. I think it has to happen. But
it's at that point it would be kind of like the Red Sox having to go through the Yankees.
It's just the law. Have to do it. Yeah.
Yep. No getting around this. No getting lucky with the standings. Even in a pandemic, you got to go through Boston.
Well, on that historical note, we can take our first break, as it's time to acknowledge Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. Their new Mile High City Copper Lager has been a favorite around the office, well, I guess the digital office here for DNVR, as everyone is picking it up. You can pick up 15 cans of that. Delicious. Sit around. I saw Zach Stevens was having one on his roof watching the Denver skyline the other night. Looked fantastic. You can get these picked up at the farmhouse down in Littleton if you'd like. You can call 303-803-1380 for pickup and use code DNVR to save $5. You can also get their 12-can sampler pack or any other of their beers from just about anywhere with apps like Drizzly to get beer delivered to you. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits with Rudo and AJ. So, you kind of alluded to it a little bit in the West, and we can bring this to the East as well. Do you see any potential upsets in these play-in series? Are there any ones that you're really looking at and going, we could see a 12, 11, 10 seed take a step here?
I worry about the reason why I think Chicago would be scary is just because defensively as a group, Edmonton is just not very good.
Sure.
And that plays into what Chicago does well.
I mean, look, man, when you have Cam Talbot in net and Patrick Kane is skating down the ice, it's hard to feel confident, right?
Yeah, who is Edmonton's goalie? Is it still Mike Smith?
It is Mike Smith, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen.
It is Koskinen now, that's right, with that terrible contract.
I'm curious which one of those guys actually plays.
It's got to be Smith, right?
I would think so, just given his postseason history, that he's been really good in the playoffs. But yeah. I don't know. Regardless, I think that Chicago offensively could go punch for punch if things go well for them.
Yep.
If some of their guys play up a level and some of their other guys, Kubalik continues to play the way that he did. They get anything out of Nylander. DeBrincat kind of returns to form. He had kind of an iffy year.
Yep.
Kane, Taves obviously need to be exceptional. Those guys, I think they could give Edmonton problems just because neither team has a very good defense. And when you open it up and, you look at each of their goaltending situations, Crawford against either Smith or Koskinen, you don't feel like
you're just getting by,
confident
right,
in any of those situations at this point. Crawford obviously has that history, but he's just been okay the last couple of years. He's a little older now. It's very clearly kind of like end of the road time. Had Chicago maybe held on to Robin Lehner at the deadline,
it would be a very different story then. But
I would feel like I might be putting money on Chicago, but because it is probably Crow, it's very iffy. But like you could see a path for. You only have to win 3 games. It's in a best of 5. We're assuming a best of 5, a best of 3, even more so. It's you're subject to variance,
flipping coins at certain times. But
yeah,
well, it's interesting with Chicago's aging and questionable defense. If there's one type of player that's going to benefit the most from all of this time off, it's a player that's, a little bit over the hill, probably, right? Instead of
a guy like Duncan Keith,
right? Instead of entering the playoffs after a grueling 82-game season, all of a sudden that guy's had 2 months off and is a bit fresher and can look like his younger self, at least for a little while.
Definitely, he could definitely turn back the clock. I mean, a 5-game series, we're talking about 10 days here.
Yeah, exactly.
So he could definitely turn back the clock, and we could see something. So I think that's an intriguing matchup. I think that's an intriguing first-round matchup where if McDavid and Draisaitl don't come out and just absolutely dominate, I don't like Edmonton's depth to help them out very much. Some encouraging things out of Cassie and Yamamoto, RNH, like they're not totally. It's not 100% on those two, but it's a lot on those two.
I mean, you can say it's not 100% on those two, but it pretty much. I guess Nugent Hopkins was close to a point per game player, but after that, Cassian had 34 points in 59 games. Solid, but
right,
nowhere
when
near.
When you're playing in a top 6,
exactly.
And Yamamoto was nearly a point per game as well. It was just that it's a really it's like 20 games. So, but I just think that that series has a lot more intriguing potential than Pittsburgh Montreal on the other side. Pittsburgh Montreal, I think, is probably
that feels like Pittsburgh's role in that.
Like the only reason that you give Montreal a chance in that is Carey Price.
Yeah,
That's it.
And that's
the only reason.
Any team can have a goalie stand on their head for 3 games. That's
totally. And that's where Arizona against Nashville scares you.
Yep.
Where Nashville's like, we're not really, we've never really lived up to our potential. They really got going at the end of the year, and they were totally going to catch. They were totally going to catch Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
and pass them.
They were tracking down. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. That the season ended when it did bailed out the Dallas Stars more than any other franchise in the league.
Yeah.
Because they were falling apart rapidly. Winnipeg was only 2 points back.
Yep. And
at one point, Dallas was dead even with Colorado, and they were both 8 points ahead of the Jets.
Right. It seemed like both of them had a not conference, division thing. There we go. Division spot locked up.
Oh
pretty
yeah,
easily,
definitely.
and then Dallas just kind of cratered.
They did at the end of the year, dude. They were really bad, and Colorado took off and totally separated. And yeah, I mean that's. But anyway, that's Arizona and Nashville. I think that goaltending, that's where Arizona had been really good in the first half of the year because they've gotten crazy goaltending the last couple of years, but
Yep.
they've also had an unbelievable injury luck where they're so beaten up, and it's always key players, and like when you're the Avs were able to survive injury issues because Nathan McKinnon didn't get hurt, and when he did, the pandemic started. So
Right.
like the Avs did not have to go through that life for more than, I think it was just the two games, LA and the Rangers.
Yep.
So they did not have to live that life, but the Coyotes are a score by committee, win by committee kind of club, and they have to have good goaltending. Their star player, the one guy, the position they can't lose, guys, is in net. And they, again, had injury issues there. And I think that masks some of what makes them so dangerous. They're deep and they're more talented than we want to give them credit for, because they still kind of play sort of a blah style where they don't play to the offensive talent that they have. I mean, they have Taylor Hall and Phil Kessel.
Right. It seems
they
like
should be an explosive scoring team, and they're just not.
I mean, they aren't, but the same coin, if Darcy Kemper continues to play like someone not named Darcy Kemper, and
I mean, at this point, it's like 2 years in a row with us.
And then
this just might be who he is for a while.
And in his injury absence, Antti Raanta certainly no slouch either. So
right.
And
you could easily see Pekka Rinne fell off a cliff this year, and UC Saros was just okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you would go into that series feeling like Arizona's got the goaltending advantage.
Yeah, and that's the one position that if you want to get carried through a playoff series or a playoff run, goaltending can do that on its own, basically.
Yeah, it's the great equalizer. Goaltending you can get through multiple rounds. It's hard to win a cup because it's hard to get that kind of goaltending for 2 straight months.
Yep.
But 2 weeks to play a best of 7 series, you can get that. And especially best of 5, like you could get that.
For sure.
You get great goaltending for a week. I mean, we saw Pavel Francouz was 3-star of the week for the NHL back-to-back weeks because he had 2 unbelievable weeks. He does that in the postseason, and that's a series win.
He gave up 2 goals in 3 games. If it's a best of 5,
that's it.
You've done it. Yeah.
You have won that series, and you have moved on.
Yep, exactly.
Like that's all it takes. That's a great way to break it down. So
it is amazing how much of an effect that can have. As we wrap up this second period here, Calgary, Winnipeg feels like a kind of a pick your poison. I mean, if Hellebuck shows up, maybe even like Winnipeg in that series.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. We could probably talk more about that, honestly.
Sure, we can dive into that. So to close this up, then, real quick on the East side, I don't mind the Panthers against your Boos and the Islanders, but the rest of those series,
I want to see how Toronto Columbus goes. I want that Toronto offense against Elvis.
See if Elvis can keep the magic going.
Straight up, man. That's strength on strength.
Yeah. All right.
Those are always intriguing series to me when you've got a team that wants to lock it down in net, and then a high scoring attack that could be susceptible to losing 2-1 if they just can't break through offensively.
Yeah.
Columbus is more comfortable in those games.
That's definitely true. They can grind it out for sure. Whereas Toronto is not super grindy these days, but yeah,
not what they're known for.
So yeah, that's as good a place as any. We can wrap up this second period here, and If y'all don't know, we still do cover the Colorado Raptors as well. Colton Strickler, the beat reporter, I believe, just posted about some of the top 10 Raptors games ever as they continue to work through that series and some of the greatest moments in that team's history. So be sure to support the Raptors as well by giving the DNVR Raptors account a follow on Twitter if you want to learn about rugby, or if you just want to follow the team a little bit closer, be sure to follow their podcast as well. Given all the downtime that has been out there and will likely continue to be out there even as things start to slowly open up, now is a great time to learn a new sport here in Denver. So, yeah, supporting our partners is supporting us, and be sure to support the Raptors as well. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits. Rudo and AJ. AJ, you wanted to dive into it, so let's dive in. This is a team that you said could be the Avs' biggest challenge in the Central Division over the next 3 years in the Winnipeg Jets because of Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, Hellebuyck is their one kind of ace in the hole, but they've also got an electric top six that can go punch for punch with the Avs. And that means that they can damn sure go punch for punch with the Calgary Flames.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that.
So that's... I don't want to say Winnipeg is a team that I think Colorado should worry about, because I think the game that they played here on New Year's Eve, Colorado got horrific goaltending.
Yeah, that was ugly.
Because they were thoroughly outplaying Winnipeg. Like they should have smoked the Jets that night. And that was a bad night. But I think in a 7-game series, I really don't like Winnipeg's chances to be able to hang with Colorado. The thing with Colorado is that what Colorado does better than anyone in the West is they're balanced. Mm-hmm. They're more balanced than anyone else. They've got good goaltending. I wouldn't say elite goaltending, but I would say good goaltending. They've got a good, solid defense that can do a lot of different things. They can throw a lot of different skill sets at you. You know, they've got a little bit of size, a little bit of physicality. They've got a lot of skating and skill. And then the forward core, it's more skill than grit at this point. But it's a lot of high-end skill, and it's a lot of skating.
Which just drive teams into the ground.
Exactly. You just wear teams out playing that way.
Yep.
And even the more physical teams will struggle with that, and that's where I give them that advantage over a handful of these teams. I mean, certainly the Jets can go punch for punch if they wanted to play a very transition counterattack heavy style, but Colorado's defense can hang with that, and Winnipeg's defense can't. So that's where Hellebuyck just has to be amazing. Yeah. If Hellebuyck is average or worse, the Jets they will not last long. He has to be exceptional for them to be dangerous.
Look, I think you're overrating the Jets' offense a touch. I don't want to take anything away from them. Their top six is very, very, very good, but I don't think it quite lives up to where the Avs are at.
They don't have a McKinnon.
They don't have a McKinnon. That's basically exactly it.
They don't have McKinnon. Scheifele is. So Nathan McKinnon is like in that top tier of centers. I think Scheifele is either in tier 2 or tier 3,
but not far behind. But yeah,
right. Like we're talking like Mark Scheifele's really damn good.
Yep.
And that, when you're talking about a playoff series, you're talking about how are they going to match up together, because Colorado wants to play best on best.
They do.
And that's where the Colorado should beat them. Nathan McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog should beat whatever combination they're using at the top these days in Winnipeg. I'm not sure if it's still Scheifele and Wheeler with Connor on the left side. If it is
production wise, that's what it looks like. But yeah,
if if that's their top line, like that's a very good line, and they are one of the few that could probably hang with the McKinnon line. But that's where if neither one of them has a distinct advantage, you really like Colorado's depth to win out.
Exactly.
And so like their top six would have to be their top six, and Hellebuyck would have to win that series.
And this is very realistically a series that could happen. Is the Jets beat Calgary and they become the 8th seed essentially, and would play the 1 seed of the top 4.
Yeah, they could. And then Calgary, obviously. I mean, we don't. I think last year's series would give all of us a little more confidence than would be warranted. But I just think that it would be something similar.
And look, Calgary's offense has had a down year this season as well.
Right.
Gaudreau has not been the strong player that he used to be. Yeah. Avalanche, thank you so much for the Tier 1 subscription. Much appreciated, my dude. Appreciate you watching us live. Yeah, I don't think Calgary is a pushover by any means, but that's a team that the Avs, as they're built, should beat.
Definitely. Like that's a team I'm not losing sleep over them. But I don't have the same fears about them that I do Winnipeg.
Sure.
And then you look at these other two teams in Vancouver and Minnesota, which would be, if they don't play for seeding, that's the matchup right now. And those are two very intriguing matchups for different reasons, because Hughes and Makar in the postseason, we could settle this right now.
Yeah.
Let's do the who wins year one right now. And you'd have to like Colorado's chances in that series, because again, Elias Pettersson is very good, but he's not Nathan McKinnon.
They don't have the team built around the guys, right?
Quinn Hughes is Vancouver's best defenseman, and that's not a knock on Quinn Hughes. That's a knock on Vancouver's defense.
Yep.
Because the thing about Cale Makar is that we all think, hey, he might be their best defenseman, but he also might not be yet. Like, Colorado's got some dudes on their defense that Vancouver just doesn't.
Well, I mean, the thing with Makar is that, look, I do think his defense is very solid, and maybe even some people underrate it, but the Avs also have Sam Girard, extremely sound defensively.
Right.
Ryan Graves has played very quality defense for this team, as has Eric Johnson. So
Ian Cole's had a great year.
So they have a ton of guys rounding out their defense that, one, not only help Cale Makar, but two, allow Cale Makar to go be Cale Makar on the other side of the ice.
Right. And we saw the last Colorado-Vancouver matchup. Colorado was greatly compromised offensively and still went toe-to-toe with Vancouver. And Quinn Hughes got eaten alive that night.
Yeah, he did not have a good time.
So, I think I like Colorado because Vancouver hadn't seen Colorado at full strength. Not once.
Right. They've been, half the league hasn't seen Colorado at full strength this year, but...
Fair enough. but Vancouver, like specifically, we're talking about these two matchups, hadn't seen Colorado at full strength. And Minnesota still continues to be a thorn in Colorado's side because the Avs still have not, for all the things, all the demons that they've exercised over the last few years, being able to win in Nashville or just beat Nashville at all at one point.
Yeah.
Winning in Western Canada, going into Winnipeg and picking up W's, winning in a game in Edmonton, toppling the Blackhawks. The going into Minneapolis continues to be a bugaboo for them. And that's, even this year, it was a problem for them.
It's nothing new. Every single Avalanche game against Minnesota, you're like, all right, let's just go ahead and tally one up for Parise, and then the Avs will deal with it from there. It's just kind of the way that the team has operated there, and to be honest, I am not that worried. I think the Avs handle Minnesota in a playoff series pretty easily this year.
I would say 5 games.
Yeah.
And the game that they lose is probably, I would say, game 4 in Minnesota.
Sure. A game in Minnesota where they, have a good hold on the series regardless.
Yeah.
not something I'd be super afraid of. The reason I wouldn't want to play Minnesota as the Avs is that team is going to grind you down. He's going to make your life hard to go on a 2-month playoff run if you have to go through them.
Yeah, it's like a bad version of St. Louis when you might have to take St. Louis next.
Right, exactly. If you have to go through those two to get to the conference final and your team is just hanging by a thread by the end of that,
Yeah, I would also say that this can't be the bracket. Like this portion of the bracket that we've seen so far where these matchups play into Calgary, Winnipeg goes to play the 1 seed, right? Like, and then that's fine. But like from here, you can't have the 1 and 2 seed play each other in the second round.
Yeah, I would definitely. They should separate those on the bracket. Yeah,
right. That needs to be adjusted in a logical way where it's 1 and
2 at the ends,
right?
And
it's
3
1
and 4 in the middle.
And then, yeah, exactly. And then 2 and 3 are on the bottom. So that's how that should be, because Colorado's reward, if they stay the 2nd seed, whoever the 2nd seed ends up being, their reward for winning their first round series cannot be to play the number 1 seed. That's so stupid.
Yeah, that would feel real bad. On the other hand, though, as many people like to say in the hockey playoffs, you got to go through everybody to win the cup. So
yeah, I mean, your path is your path, but the league can make like logical decisions here to decide how this is going to look.
Let's just go back to the full-on reseed that they used to do.
I Colorado Vegas in round 2 would be
something.
I think it would be really fun. I wanted Vegas last year instead of the Sharks because I knew the Sharks were going to win. But well, I thought the Sharks.
Hopefully, we may get to see some of these series sooner rather than later, as there's still a lot of work to do here. Right, this is the very, very bare bonesiest plan ever that they've confirmed.
Right. We have no confirmation on the format. We don't even have confirmation on how many games are getting played in this series. We don't have confirmation on what the format after the play-in round looks like, as we were just discussing. We don't know where these games are getting played. Yep. And then we don't have any of the logistics in terms of
getting players to where they need to be and quarantining and
whole virus thing that they still have to contend with. We have none of those answers. So the just to wrap this up, keep in mind that the vote yesterday was great, but it literally the NHLPA statement that they released literally just says the NHLPA has authorized further negotiations with the NHL.
Basically, so they agreed to a 24-team format, and that's essentially it.
Right. This is like when you're in like 8th grade and you start dating a girl and you have like a 1-week anniversary and you give her like, I don't know, like a ring pop.
Yeah.
And it's like a promise of a promise of a promise down the road. Like that's all this is.
The announcement of an announcement of an announcement.
Yeah,
here, basically.
It's like okay, like this is we're getting somewhere, but this is more cute than anything else.
Yeah, that I unfortunately agree with. But hey, you have to start somewhere.
Totally, and that's why we're excited about it. That's why we're doing this on a Saturday afternoon.
Yep, exactly. So that's the news, I guess, on the NHL. Hopefully over the next week they solidify a few more things and you start taking more and more steps towards those training camps at the beginning of July. But they have something to work off of now, and looking forward to some actual hockey news over the next month or so that we can talk with all y'all about. So yeah, I guess that's all we have for you today. As always, thank you for listening. Monday, I think we will be doing a watch along of Mook Madulin, if I am correct. But either way,
Shakir.
more prospect stuff coming your way as we await that announcement on the draft from the NHL as well, which at this point, who even knows? But we got you covered with everything and anything hockey and Avs hockey here, so keep it locked into the DNVR Avs podcast, and we will talk to y'all on Monday.